Emma drives through a deserted country road as twilight sets in. The trees form a dense canopy overhead, casting long, shadowy fingers across the road. Her GPS leads her to an isolated house at the edge of a forest. The building is old, with peeling paint and an overgrown garden. All the windows are dark except for one. A soft, warm glow emanates from an upstairs room. Emma parks her car and hesitates before stepping out. The air feels unusually cold for summer. She grabs her bag, walks up the creaking wooden steps, and unlocks the front door. Inside, the house smells of damp wood and something faintly metallic. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. A text pings on her phone. "Welcome to your stay. Room 3 is ready for you. Enjoy your night." She looks around but finds no sign of a host. Shrugging off her unease, she heads upstairs. Emma walks up the narrow staircase, the floorboards groaning under her weight. Each step feels heavier, as if the air thickens the higher she climbs. She follows the flickering light at the end of the corridor, leading her to room 3. The door creaks as she pushes it open. The room is surprisingly cozy. A single bed with crisp white sheets sits against the far wall. A small desk with a lamp occupies the corner, and a vintage mirror hangs opposite the bed. However, the air inside feels colder than the hallway. Emma shivers and places her bag on the bed. After unpacking, she sits at the desk and scrolls through her phone. No signal. With a sigh, she puts it aside and decides to explore. The rest of the house is eerily quiet. As she moves down the hallway, she notices that the other doors are locked, their handles rusted over. After unpacking, she sits at the desk and scrolls through her phone. No signal. With a sigh, she puts it aside and decides to explore. The rest of the house is eerily quiet. As she moves down the hallway, she notices that the other doors are locked, their handles rusted over. Back in her room, Emma pulls out a book to pass the time. Hours drift by, and the only sound is the ticking of an old clock on the wall. Exhausted, she decides to sleep. As she turns off the lamp, the room plunges into darkness, save for the faint glow of her phone on the nightstand. Just as she drifts off, her phone vibrates. The screen lights up, displaying a notification. Movement detected in your room. Emma's heart races. She checks the camera feed, but the room appears empty. She locks the phone and tries to calm down, but the unease lingers. Emma's breathing quickens as she stares at the phone screen, the notification burning into her mind. Movement detected in your room. She glances around, but the room remains silent and still. The shadows seem longer now, stretching into corners she can't quite see. Determined not to panic, Emma reopens the camera app linked to the motion sensor. The screen flickers, showing the grainy, black and white feed of her room. Everything looks normal, until she notices a faint, shadowy figure in the far corner near the mirror. It's barely there, like a trick of the light, but it's enough to send a chill down her spine. Emma locks her phone and pulls the covers up to her chin, trying to convince herself it's her imagination. The old house creaks as the wind howls outside. Minutes feel like hours. Just as she begins to drift off, a soft tapping sound starts. It's coming from the mirror. The tapping grows louder, more insistent. Emma forces herself to sit up and look. The mirror's surface ripples slightly, as though it's made of water, not glass. Suddenly, the tapping stops, and a message appears, scrawled in the condensation. Room for one more. Emma's heart pounds in her chest. She grabs her phone to call for help, but there's still no signal. Desperate, she types a message to her best friend. Something's wrong. I need help. As she hits send, the screen glitches, and the message disappears. Then, the room plunges into an unnatural silence. Even the ticking clock has stopped. The mirror now reflects not Emma, but an empty, dark room. A voice, soft but chilling, whispers from behind her, "You shouldn't have come here." Emma's pulse races as she spins around, but the room remains empty. Her breathing echoes in the stillness, each inhale sharp and shallow. The mirror continues to shimmer, and her reflection flickers in and out like a faulty signal. She feels eyes on her, intense, unrelenting. Desperate to break the tension, Emma reaches for the bedside lamp and flicks it on. The light barely penetrates the darkness, casting an eerie yellow glow. She sits on the edge of the bed, staring at the mirror. Then, her phone buzzes. A new notification. Device connected. Unknown user. Her hands tremble as she opens the app. The live feed from the camera is clearer now, showing the room in real time. But something is off. Her reflection in the mirror isn't moving. Emma gasps, watching in horror as the reflection turns to face her, even though she hasn't moved. It lifts a hand, pressing its palm against the glass. The sound of faint knocking echoes in the room, perfectly synced with the reflection's movements. "Who are you?" Emma whispers, her voice barely audible. The reflection tilts its head, a cold smile spreading across its face. The words, "You invited me," appear on the mirror's surface, written in a foggy mist. Panic surges through Emma as she backs away from the mirror, bumping into the dresser. Her phone slips from her hands and lands on the floor, the screen shattering. The lights flicker violently, plunging the room into intermittent darkness. In the moments of light, Emma sees shadows gathering in the corners, inching closer. She grabs the lamp and hurls it at the mirror. The glass shatters, but instead of falling to the floor, the shards hang in midair, suspended like floating knives. A voice resonates, deep and hollow. "The room is mine. You cannot leave." Emma stumbles backward, her back hitting the wall. The room feels colder, the air thick with dread. The suspended shards of glass begin to spin slowly, casting eerie reflections on the walls. Emma's eyes dart around, searching for a way out, but the door is gone. Only a blank wall remains. Her phone buzzes again, even though the screen is cracked. Another notification flashes. "Stay still." The words seem more like a command than a suggestion. Emma ignores it, reaching for the dresser to steady herself. Suddenly, the drawers fly open, and a gust of icy wind knocks her to the ground. A low whisper fills the room, voices overlapping in a language Emma doesn't recognize. The shadows that gathered earlier now swirl into a single shape, a tall, cloaked figure with hollow eyes. It steps forward, each footfall making the ground tremble. "Why are you doing this?" Emma's voice cracks, barely above a whisper. The figure tilts its head. "You invited me," it says again, the words echoing in her mind rather than aloud. "I didn't," Emma shouts, clutching the stone from earlier like a talisman. "I don't even know who you are." The figure stretches a long, shadowy hand toward her. The air grows heavier, pressing down on her chest. She struggles to breathe, her vision blurring. Then, out of instinct, she lifts the stone and holds it in front of her. The glowing symbol on it pulses brightly, and the figure recoils, hissing like steam escaping a kettle. Realizing the stone's power, Emma clutches it tighter. The floating glass shards clatter to the ground, and the shadows retreat slightly. The figure, now weakened, glares at her. The contract is incomplete, it growls. "Leave, or seal your fate." The walls begin to ripple, and Emma spots a faint outline of a door where the original one was. Summoning all her courage, she bolts toward it, stone in hand. Emma bursts through the glowing door and stumbles into a narrow corridor, gasping for breath. The air is fresh and cool, a stark contrast to the suffocating darkness she just escaped. The door slams shut behind her with a resounding thud, leaving only silence. The stone in her hand dims, but its warmth remains, offering a small sense of comfort. As she looks around, the corridor seems endless, lit by flickering lanterns hanging from the ceiling. The walls are lined with old, faded portraits, each one depicting faces that feel unnervingly familiar. Emma approaches one painting and gasps. It's a portrait of herself. A sudden voice echoes through the hall, deep and resonant. The house remembers. The contract binds you. Emma spins around but sees no one. The corridor begins to shift, the walls twisting and warping as if alive. She grips the stone tightly, sensing that it's her only protection. The lanterns flicker and dim, plunging her into near darkness. She hears footsteps, slow, deliberate, and getting closer. Emma breaks into a sprint, her heart pounding in her chest. The portraits blur past her as she runs, their eyes following her movements. The corridor twists and turns, seemingly endless, but Emma keeps moving, driven by sheer will. Finally, she reaches another door, identical to the one she entered. Without hesitation, she pushes it open and steps through, collapsing onto a cold, stone floor. The room she enters is vast and cavernous, with high ceilings and walls covered in ancient symbols. At the center of the room stands an ornate pedestal, upon which rests an old, leather-bound book. Emma approaches cautiously. The book's cover bears the same glowing symbol as her stone. She opens it, and the pages flip on their own, revealing text that glows faintly. The words shift and rearrange, forming a single sentence. To break the contract, you must find the truth. Emma's mind races. What truth? What contract? Before she can ponder further, the room begins to tremble. The symbols on the walls light up, and the air hums with energy. The symbols on the walls pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat, creating an overwhelming sense of urgency. The glowing text in the book shifts again, forming a question. What are you running from? Emma's breath catches. Memories flood her mind. Memories she had buried deep. A cold, rainy night. A decision made in haste. A door she promised never to open again. The truth she had long denied now stood before her, demanding to be acknowledged. The voice returns, softer now but insistent. To break the contract, face your fear. Suddenly, the walls of the room dissolve, and Emma finds herself back in her childhood home. The familiar scent of old wood and lavender fills the air. The living room is exactly as she remembered, except for one detail, a door that never existed before. It stands ominously at the far end, its surface adorned with the same glowing symbols. Emma hesitates but knows she must enter. She walks towards the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. The stone in her hand grows warmer, as if encouraging her forward. As she reaches for the handle, the door creaks open on its own, revealing a dark, swirling void. A voice, her own voice, younger and trembling, whispers from within. You left me here. Emma steps inside, and the darkness envelops her. The void transforms into a scene from her past. A rainy night, her teenage self standing at a crossroads, terrified and alone. She watches as her younger self makes a fateful decision, turning away from something, or someone. The scene fades, and Emma finds herself face to face with her younger self. The girl looks up, eyes filled with fear and betrayal. You abandoned me, the younger Emma whispers. Emma kneels, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to face it. But I'm here now. The light from the merging of Emma's two selves fades, and she feels herself falling, plunging through an abyss of swirling lights and shadows. Her body shudders with the weight of 1,000 emotions. She feels the pull of regret, of decisions made long ago, and the heaviness of the truth she's avoided for so long. Just when she thinks she cannot bear it any longer, the sensation abruptly stops. Emma is standing once more. But this time, she's not in her childhood home, nor is she in the ominous, crumbling room. She stands in a vast, empty void, stretching infinitely in every direction. The only thing in this space is a single, floating mirror. The mirror is like no other. Its surface ripples like water, showing fragments of Emma's life. Scenes flash before her eyes. Her childhood, the moment of betrayal, the loss of her closest friend, the secret she's hidden deep within her soul. She watches herself from outside her own body, as if she's a stranger to her own life. The voice returns, deep and resonant. You must see the truth, and only then will you be free. Emma steps forward, hesitantly at first, then with more conviction. She reaches out, her hand trembling as it touches the surface of the mirror. The reflection shifts, now showing not just her past, but the choices she has yet to make. The future unfolds before her. Her success, her failure, the love and the loss that will come. A question emerges in the center of the mirror, glowing in golden letters. Will you choose freedom? The world around Emma begins to shake again. The void darkens, swirling faster. The mirror's glow intensifies as she watches, transfixed. It's not just her past and future, but her soul, her very essence, on display. Emma knows she cannot hide any longer. With one final, deep breath, Emma whispers aloud, "Yes, I choose freedom." Emma's world changes in an instant. The once dark void disappears, replaced by a world of light and warmth. She stands in a beautiful, sun-dappled meadow, surrounded by vibrant flowers that seem to bloom just for her. The heavy burden that had weighed her down for so long is gone, replaced by a serene sense of peace. The ground beneath her is solid and firm, the air crisp and fresh. For the first time in years, Emma feels truly alive. The voice that guided her throughout the journey speaks once more, but this time, it is soft and comforting. You have broken the chains. You are free. As Emma walks through the meadow, she looks around and sees the people she's loved and lost. They are all here, smiling, peaceful, free from the regrets of the past. The landscape shifts and changes, reflecting the peace she has now found within herself. The journey is far from over, but now, Emma knows she is capable of anything. She is no longer a prisoner of her past. She is reborn, ready to live a life unburdened by fear, guilt, or the shadows that once haunted her. With a heart full of hope, Emma steps forward into the unknown, knowing that whatever lies ahead, she will face it with strength and courage.